Morning.
Hope everyone's getting their bids in. A lot of stuff out there that I'm going to take if you don't. As we all know, this auction's happening because Valentine's Day is Wednesday. Valentine's Day is known as the holiday of love. And as we all sit in here yet today, we can look around and see an individual or many individuals that we would say that we love. But if we were to come across somebody that's had a life not nearly as blessed as ours, could you explain to them what it means to love another? Could you explain to them what it looks like to love another or to care for another? It says in John 15, verse 13, Jesus is talking to his disciples and says, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." This is easily translated and received as to love somebody, you must put their wants and needs ahead of our own. Many of the parents in here understand this very well, having kids and having sacrificed plenty for their kids on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Growing up, my mom worked in Galion at a vet hospital, and on a regular basis during the summer, she would come home, drive all the way back to Caledonia, and pick up my brother and I, take us back to Galion for lunch, right down the street from where she worked, just so she could spend some time with us. Then afterward, she had to take us back home and go rush back to work in Galion, which was only a mile and a half from where she originally lived. She didn't have to do this. It was a sacrifice that she happily made, she told us, just so she could spend lunch with my brother and I. And I'm sure many parents in here have done other stuff just to show their kids how much they love them. But what's it look like to love somebody that's not a friend or a family? A few chapters earlier in John 3:16, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that whoever shall believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." When I read this and other passages where the author of the book discusses God loving the world, I have to remind myself that he does not love the world as an object, the mountains, the water, but he loves the people on it, all of us that he created. He loves us individually, just as parents love their kids individually. He does not just love the people in the church that sits here and in churches across the world, but also the criminal, the homeless, and all the people that slander us. He loves all of them, and he encourages us to do so as well. Jesus died for all of us and loves all of us. In Mark 12, verse 30 and 31, Jesus again is talking to the disciples. When asked, "What is the greatest commandment?" he says, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength." The second commandment is like this: "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." There is no other commandment greater than these. With every commandment that we have seen given throughout the New and Old Testament alike, Jesus says that the most important ones are to love another and to love the neighbor. And not just the neighbor that lives beside us, but the neighbor that we pass by on the streets, the neighbor we see at work, or somebody that looks like we're simply just not having their day. As people of Christ that have accepted him into our lives, we can and should try to model our lives after his, on a daily basis and on a monthly basis. We do not have to fear about running out of love. In 1 John 4, starting in verse 7, we see him say, "Beloved, let us love one another, for God loved us. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. But anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love." If God is love, and all love comes from God, then we can easily draw a conclusion that since God is perfect and God is infinite beyond time, that the love that we receive is infinite and beyond time. Our relationship with God should be like that of the sun and the moon, where God provides the warmth, he provides the light. Our only task as the moon is to reflect that, the light, the warmth, and the love to the others. By doing so, just as the moon controls the tides that go around the world, We can draw other people into God simply by reflecting what He has already given us. We do not have to ration our love. When a parent has 2 kids, they don't have to love the first one less just so that they can love the other one more. But instead, when we find somebody that is lacking in love or seems to be having a harder time loving other people or themselves, we should love them more. And we don't have to worry about having to give up a friend or a family member for it, because God says that the more that we love, the more He loves us. So that the more love we can give out, the more that we receive. Nelson Mandela was quoted by saying, "If people can learn to hate, then they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." But if we do not try and model our lives after Christ and yet claim faith in Him anyway, then how does somebody that not yet know His sacrifice and what He has done for us, how will they appreciate that as we do? How will they see what it truly means that He loved us if we do not love others? Just because they disagree with you, they cut you off, they don't like what you're doing, they don't like what you're saying, or they don't even want to hear the message of Christ. If we treat them differently than we would treat somebody sitting in here, then how would they understand or show that we're trying to be different or we're trying to model our lives after Christ? God and Jesus do not want anybody to be cast into hell. They love all of us. And He wants us all to join Him in heaven, the heavenlies. So, put your love on display, engage in conversation with somebody that does not, and do not try to make them love Jesus that day. Plain and simple. I've only recently found the book of Colossians, but I've already found a great fondness for it. Very short and only 4 chapters long, it is stuffed with great verses, such as in 3, verse 12 and 14. He says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. In all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." This is another case where the author of a different book states just how important it is to love. As Christians, it is the very staple of how we should strive to walk, talk, act, and live in our daily lives. If we love those who do not love us, if we love everybody that we come across, if we love the people that, even in our own families, treat us different, then how are we reflecting God other than exactly how God wants us to? The entire Bible is not just chock full of verses in every single book about love, but it's an underlying theme. God loved us so that we could love others. God loved us so much that He knowingly and willingly descended from heaven, took on the form of a human, and died for us on the cross. He left heaven knowing what we would do to Him, and embraced it so that we may all live with Him for eternity. The only comparison close to this was to be knowing you have a family member that treats you poorly your whole life, and they're stuck in a country that you can't get to without flying over there and dying for them. And that's the only way to free them and bring them back. Would you be able to do it? Jesus did. Jesus knowingly left His throne where everybody praises Him every minute of every day and came down just so that we may torture Him for 8 hours, pierce His hands with nails, stick Him on a cross, and stab a spear in His side. And yet He did it knowingly and willingly so that we may join Him and we don't have to die. The only real command He gives us after we killed Him was to love one another. It comes in Corinthians, in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 and 2. It says, "If I speak with human elegance and angelic ecstasy, but do not love, I am nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power, revealing all His mysteries and making everything plain as day, and I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but I do not love,